All right, we're live. Welcome. If you're just joining us by watching this later, you might wait 30 seconds or fast forward at 30 seconds so that we can get everybody in here. If there's any technical problems, let me know because, well, YouTube's interface isn't all that great. Surprising when they don't have any competitors, but it's kind of hard to tell sometimes what's going on from my end. You should try to live stream sometime and see what that's like. So, I'm Professor Matthews, your guide, guru, semi-guru to the movies. And, you know, it's great to have so many choices in your life, but we want to narrow those down and try to really figure out what's great to watch. That's what this live stream is about for this month, February 2021. We're going to talk about what's leaving Criterion Channel. I've even got Netflix and Amazon up because that helps us narrow down our choices. Also talk about whatever you want to talk about, so come on into the chat room. Go ahead and chat. Give us your suggestions. I have many things to say about what's coming out and what is leaving these channels. So get a pen and paper out too, because you'll want to write these down perhaps. Welcome everybody. So I want to do a little show and tell first. Little show and tell. Let's see if this works. I always liked that in kindergarten, show and tell. So I'm not buying game stock. It's already too high for me. But I am buying physical media. So I hope you can see this. This is the Logan Blu-ray. But I think I bought the British edition. Maybe the light's glaring off that. But if you look down there, it's got sort of the British rating system. At least that's what I think it is. So the little surprise about this little baby is I opened it up, and maybe the US Blu-ray has this, but I was very pleased because not only does it have the actual movie, but it also has, you can see that right there, hopefully, the Logan in Noir, so it claims, a black and white version. Film in black and white, it says. So I was very happy because I love that stuff. I rarely ever get to see that. I was Steven Soderbergh once had a Raiders of the Lost Ark in black and white, and it's just captivating. And I wish we could do more of that. You know, when I was a kid, they used to colorize black and white movies, and that never worked very well. In fact, it sometimes can change the meaning of certain shots or certain scenes. But maybe that can happen with black and white. But I just am very curious as to how this Logan movie watches in black and white. So maybe you should check that out if that kind of thing interests you. Welcome everyone in the chat room. I love this chat too because usually every month I get some kind of new suggestion in the chat room. So go ahead and lay them out there. And a few months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, someone suggested the Turkish director, who I hadn't watched, Nuri Bilge Ceylan. So most of you have, many of you know this person. I don't. I hadn't watched any of his movies, so I watched Once Upon a Time in Anatolia. And that had won the Palme d'Or, and it was a slow cinema experience. You know, I should probably rewatch it. But then I got this movie, because I was very curious about it. I mean, I thought I should try another Ceylan movie. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And I am in love with this movie. It is a very slow movie based on Chekhov, but the lighting and the location, I could just watch this movie to be in the place that it is. Now, it's a very meticulous movie, very well done, and it will require me to rewatch it in order to sort of get it, understand it, and analyze it. So the first time through, and it is a 3-hour commitment, I wasn't sure about it. But then by the end, and then thinking about it, it really stuck with me. It's one of those movies I watched, and you know, a week later I'm thinking about it. So, yeah, I see someone in the comments say it, Winter Sleep. My kind of movie about a hermit. Not really, but a man interested in art, and he lives mostly alone, and sort of my life. Anyway, all right. And then the other things I want to talk about. Hopefully this is a very long shot. There's not a lot of people that watch this, probably not enough. But if you work for the movie company or movie studio A24, would you get me some screeners? I've been cold calling A24 through email because I think a lot of people on the channel would like reviews and like to know about the movies they have coming out. They really do great work. So if you know anybody who works there, or you work there, I'd appreciate it. My cold calls to Netflix and Warner Brothers have been successful, but no one's ever returned their calls, my A24, not calls, but emails. So anyway, just throwing that out there. I would really appreciate reviewing. In fact, their movies do not come to my neck of the woods. They would have to be nominated for Best Picture to even show up in a theater nearby. And I noticed that Saint Maud came out in theaters. That's what my the website I rely on says. And I don't know if that's true, but that one in Minari. I really want to see The Green Knight. So these are A24 movies coming out this year. And thus, okay, please throw a bone my way. Anyway, okay, so what's leaving these channels? And this will help you narrow down your choices this month. And there are several. On Netflix, you may not subscribe to Netflix, fine. And I do because it's convenient. It's got some things on there I still watch. So there's a movie leaving on, look at my note, February 17th, called Hostiles. And that's a movie I really liked. Now, it might have appealed to me because I'm a middle-aged white dude. But Hostiles has Christian Bale in it, old Western movie. And he's taking Indians north. I forget why. Scott Cooper is the director. And if you like one of his movies, you'll probably like this movie. So I suggest it because it's leaving Netflix. And then on Criterion, there's a bunch of movies leaving. The whole Cary Grant collection seems to be leaving from Criterion Channel. That, as far as I could tell. But there are several movies on there that people who are into film or want to get into film ought to watch. And I've covered 3 or 4 of them on my channel so far, and I definitely will cover them all at some point. The ones that are leaving, Days of Heaven by Terrence Malick, which I recommended Malick to everybody. I just keep doing that. But watch that movie, and I have a video on it about an itinerant farm workers in the early 20th century. Sort of an Abraham, Sarah story. If you know the Bible, they go from Chicago down to Oklahoma and work in a wheat farm? And then the farmer wants to marry the woman and does. Meanwhile, I won't tell the story, but very beautifully shot. Highly realistic and yet poetic movie by Terrence Malick. Probably the one Malick movie you would like. The one I recommend starting with. It's quite a bit of story there, as opposed to other Malick movies which do not. So Days of Heaven. The Night of the Hunter is leaving the channel, and I highly recommend that. Great noir, great sort of serial killer in the United States movie. Weird religious overtones, and then, as you probably know, watching my video on it, the Coen brothers quote it. It's quoted a lot. The only movie done by actor Charles Lofton. So, that one. And then the 2 Kubrick movies. For those of you who haven't watched Kubrick or maybe want to rewatch, they're very well done in the Criterion. However they've done the restoration process or their digitizing, high definition digitizing. Dr. Strangelove, which I'm right now working on the video on Dr. Strangelove. So that will be out in a couple of months. And then Paths of Glory, which probably is, I think right now, my favorite Kubrick movie overall. I love how that's done. Everything in it. And I just put a short video out on Paths of Glory. So both of those are leaving the channel. I think those are the only Kubrick movies they have, but you want to see black and white done really well. Probably as good as it could be done. Both of those movies. I mean, Dr. Strangelove, for all its satirical stuff about governments and nuclear weapons and the Peter Sellers performance, Dr. Strangelove is very well shot. It's amazingly well shot. So check that out. And then other movies leaving the channel. I'm already up to 4. So I like Bringing Up Baby as a Howard Hawks screwball comedy. I've always liked that movie. It's highly recommended. And then Harold and Maude. If you don't know Harold and Maude, you really should. I'm not sure what you would think about it. I think it will change over the course of your life if you watch this Harold and Maude. But by director Hal Ashby. And I have a Hal Ashby video on my channel I put out several months ago. And maybe Harold and Maude is his best or one of his more interesting movies. Very interesting sense of humor, funny, a great opening shot. I love Harold and Maude's opening shot. So you got to watch that. I think you will get, it will at least provoke you. And you will be disgusted or thrilled or somewhere in between by Harold and Maude. I won't even tell you the plot. Just do it. All right. So those are my recommendations for Criterion Channel. I think they will please you. Those are 6 movies. They've got a bunch of others. A couple of noir movies, I think, going off. And many others I haven't seen. So if you look at the Criterion, what's leaving in February, let us know in the chat room in the comments, and we'll check it out, because there's a More Now movie, his last movie, called Taboo, which I have not seen, but it's shot in the South Sea Islands. I'm very curious about that one, and a couple others like that. So Criterion it will always make you feel as if you don't know anything. If you look at Criterion's channel, or their, the whole collection, 1,000+ DVDs, Blu-rays they put out, who can have time to watch all this? I'm sure there's a few people, but Criterion Channel always makes me feel intimidated. It should make anybody. There's no scholar in the world who's watched all those movies, so there's always great things to discover there. They don't pay me to say this, but it is quite good, and it still is. So, by the way, subscribe to my newsletter, subscribe to my Letterboxd, or just follow me on Letterboxd with the D. My newsletter, I put out notes on videos I've made, and you get email, very quick update on what I've made. Easier to see than the YouTube chat or suggested homepage suggestions, I think. My newsletter you'll get in your email inbox, so go subscribe to that. I think it's down there in the description of this video. So please do that. It helps support me. And I appreciate, by the way, I appreciate all the comments I've gotten in the last month. This channel's grown in a month and quite a bit, and people keep coming in, showing up, and saying very nice things. So that's helpful to me, because what else keeps me going? I get a tiny bit of money from ad revenue, but not much, so thank you. Anyway, so Amazon Prime, I don't know what's leaving there, but check the websites. There's always something interesting leaving there if you subscribe to Amazon Prime. So there you go. Who can subscribe to all the streaming services, by the way? HBO Max, I just did sign up for it, because I think it's Warner Brothers, as you know, is releasing all their movies on HBO Max. And guess what I did? I could have gone to the theater to see this movie, but with Denzel Washington, The Little Things. Or I could go to HBO Max and just sit on my couch or my bed and watch the movie. So which did I choose to do? And the answer is I chose to stream it. I'm too lazy to walk 5 blocks to my local movie theater. And I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know what Warner Brothers' ultimate financial strategy is, but the more of these companies that release movies streaming, I can't see how theaters are going to survive, in spite of the Reddit guys, buying an AMC theater stock. People are going to be like me, subscribe to HBO Max, and then they're just going to sit in their beds and watch the movies that are just released that day. So anyway, all right, those are all my recommendations. I'm looking in the no one's commented in a long time in the chat. I hope it's going okay. In A Lonely Place, I watched it last night. Any thoughts? Whoa, remind me of that one. Now, Humphrey Bogart noir. Is it Nicholas Ray, the director? But it's been a little while since I've seen that. I definitely have read the book, and I think the book is better, if it's the one I'm thinking about. And that's right at the peak of, Bogart playing the anti-hero in the noir movies. So I like the movie. I think the problem was with it, I watched it with my wife, and she doesn't like those kinds of movies. So, yeah. I think you should definitely watch that movie, In a Lonely Place. The question is, which Bogart noir movies will you like? And I prefer, as I showed you in the video the other day, not released long ago, Treasure of the Sierra Madre. In fact, I should go look up the Bogart movies, because there are some really interesting ones that people don't know from him or with him in it. I think the one where he's in Key Largo, Florida, which I cannot remember the name of that. It may even be Key Largo. Is quite a good movie. If you like In a Lonely Place, you probably like that movie too. Let me look him up here. I really appreciate. Yeah, the movie is Key Largo. So you want another noir movie? The other one with Humphrey Bogart that you should try is Dark Passage. Really interesting book. I think is it David Geddes wrote that book. But Dark Passage, if I remember that correctly, it has a very long opening point of view shot. In fact, isn't the first half of that movie all POV? I'm tempted to say it is, although that's probably wrong. That doesn't sound right to me. But there's some trick with that movie, Dark Passage. So if you can get a hold of that, those of you who watched In a Lonely Place, you will probably really appreciate Dark Passage. From, when is that? 1947. Yeah. Boy, Bogart, I mean, in the late 40s is just on fire, really. One video I've considered is doing like actors who... I was thinking about this with Jack Nicholson in the 1970s. Which actors in which periods have really just picked all the right scripts at the right time? Harrison Ford in the 80s, if you want to think commercial success, although some of those movies are quite good. But you know, Bogart in the late 40s, maybe early 50s, really on fire. So anyway, I'm looking at the comments. Maltese Falcon, yeah, The Big Sleep. Absolutely. People know those. I was just bringing up those that people don't know from Bogart. Dead Reckoning? Have I seen that? I think so. I think that's another one that's quite good. A really interesting and an interesting book, too. If you really want to get trippy, is Hollywood, and the noirs written in the 30s and 40s in novels, and then Hollywood picking them up and running with them. So anyway, there's that. What else do we have over here in the comments? Check out the Mads Mikkelsen new movie called Another Round. Okay, I will do that. I'm very happy to try that movie. It's great to have that recommendation, although I've not heard of this. So, another round. See, I'm writing this down. Another round. And then someone else recommends The Color of Pomegranates, which I know I have not seen that. What is Color of Pomegranates about? What is attractive about this movie? In fact, what is the color of pomegranates? I don't live in a Mediterranean climate. The Color of Pomegranates, Soviet-Armenian art film. Oh boy. I never know what to do with the category art film. This looks very interesting, though. I'm just looking at the shots. Is this a low-budget or high-budget movie? It's hard to tell. Probably have me with Soviet-Armenian. So, yeah, Sight... Oh, that's right. Sight and Sound Top 100. I never know about the Sight and Sound Top 100. It's a very hit or miss. Sight and Sound's approach to ranking movies is mathematically screwed up, in my opinion. I think they could do a lot better at a ranking system. But yeah, so I should probably watch this movie too. I have not seen it. Great. That reminds me that on Criterion they put out a Blu-ray of The Ascent, which someone in the comments, is it Jerry McVean maybe? I remember you guys. That is a really interesting Russian movie. What? Existential flavors of Tarkovsky, as you probably know, but on Blu-ray, very attractive to go at least rent that from a library, if not try to procure it somehow. So, anyways. Hey, Bullcut Gaming, since you've watched all Sight and Sound ranked movies, what Sight and Sound movies in the top 100 are terrible? I've considered a video on that. Which negative videos never do that great. It always attracts people who are very upset and want to misunderstand. But I've been sort of waiting to pounce on that idea of, you guys ranked them in the top 100. Now let me tell you why they're actually pretty awful. I know there's not a lot of them in the top 100 that are awful, but I have my opinions on this. So, yeah, Cinema Paradiso, maybe. I mean, that's what I think. You go through the top 100 Sight and Sound, and you're like, you hit something like, why is that ranked there? And I think it's because of their very screwy ranking system, which the voters only get 10 votes. And so they end up voting for weird things or quirky things, or they can only pick one from a director, and it just doesn't really work very well. Because, I mean, I think it would be a more standard list if they did it differently. Yeah. That would be an awesome video. I like doing negative videos, but it attracts people who want to hate me. I mean, I don't care about being hated, but it takes a lot of my time to deal with these people. So I tried it with the Stalker video. I try to be very nice and say, I don't like Stalker, but here's the way I'm observing it. Here's why I think you might like it. And I still get a lot of YouTube hate. YouTube isn't the greatest place to sort of test out theories or push back on people. Yeah, so anyway, in fact, I've got time, let me pull up the top 100 Sight and Sound. Because the Sight and Sound poll, if you don't know, is done every 10 years. And it has been since the 1950s. British Film Institute has directors and critics from around the world rank their top 10 greatest favorite movies, whatever. And then they compile all the votes, hundreds of votes per directors and per critics, and they separate those two lists. And then you get the top, I think they usually do top 100 and top 250, according to those votes and the voting schemes. So everybody gets 10 movies. And it's always fascinating to see what it comes out. And you can track this over time, like what was loved in the 1950s up till today. I think the poll will come out this year, maybe next year. So I always love to look at it as a historical phenomenon to see what has changed over time on this list. And I'm looking at it now. And one thing that pops out at me immediately is that I get a lot of requests. People come up to me in comments, obviously, and say, would you do this movie? Would you talk about this movie? One thing that person who has never been asked, I'm shocked by this, is Ozu. So there he sits as number 3 on Tokyo Story, Ozu, at number 3. And I'm wondering if this is just a critics thing rather than like a YouTuber thing. I mean, do people on YouTube watch and like Ozu? I don't know. But I just have never had anybody ask me to do an Ozu movie, even though I did a very short video on Good Morning. But Tokyo Story is sitting there. That's like my 10th favorite Ozu movie. I just have never connected to that one, and I probably should rewatch it. So that strikes me as the sort of the first weird one. And number 7 is The Searchers. I just used that in a class, and I can tell you, I don't know if the students liked it or understood it. The last time I taught it, there was a lot of hilarity. People actually laughed at it during a screening, which I thought was weird. But it is a funny movie in a couple places. The Searchers is number 7. It's a strange movie to rank number 7, although that's probably the Western that people pick. So there's that one. I'm looking at these. Joan of Arc, Potemkin. Breathless is the Godard movie. I know why, but that's far from my favorite Godard. So anyway, you can look at these movies and find the highbrow movies from people all over the world, critics, and you can look at the director's poll too. It's a little bit different and quite interesting. Oh, there. So number 16, I do not like, and I don't know how to pronounce it, honestly. I'm very sorry, my French is awful. Balthazar, the movie about the donkey by Robert Bresson. I like some of his movies. That one drives me crazy. I have no connection to donkeys on cinema, and that may be because I'm half sociopath. I'm not really, but I don't empathize with the donkey at all, although that movie tells me I should. That's one I would take a swing at if I did a negative Sight and Sound poll video. So anyway, and you know what? Sometimes these my views change. Like when I was 20 and watched these movies, I hated some of them and loved some of them, and now I'm 40 and I have different movies I love and hate. So it's a personal thing as well. Well, why do I hate Stalker? It's really because the novel is so amazing. And when you start to compare the absolute complexity and the elusive quality of the novel and how it reads, the novel is Roadside Picnic. And then Tarkovsky his rendering of, he sort of, I hate to say it this way, he castrates the book in a lot of ways. He makes it this meditative journey. He cuts out a lot of this. There's some science fiction in the movie, but not a lot. And I always feel like he's straining in that movie to come to what he does want to come to, which is nostalgia and the sacrifice. It's sort of angsty Soviet Union, as it turns out, late Soviet Union movies that he made, after he left the Soviet Union. So I appreciate nostalgia. This is a contrast thing, nostalgia and the sacrifice, and compared to Stalker. I don't hate it. I just have never gotten into it. And so I really love the book. One of my former students is in here. I can't remember if I taught the book to him or not, but Roadside Picnic, fabulous read. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. So Westerns. We should do a Western video. In fact, I'm churning out science fiction videos. I'm doing almost by decade, the top 10 by decade, and you're going to see in the next months one from 1977 to 1991, the 90s science fiction, 2000 science fiction. I should probably do something similar with Westerns. I feel like I have enough knowledge of Westerns to do that. I definitely have enough knowledge of science fiction to sort of do that kind of thing. And so when I look at the Westerns, I do think Liberty Valance is really interesting. And, it's partly about creating myths and fake news and who's your hero, which hero do you want. Now, The Searchers is about that in part, but it's probably less interesting. I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. It was to Scorsese and Lucas, they love The Searchers. They quote it about every other movie they make. Star Wars quotes The Searchers opening where the homestead is raided and destroyed. Star Wars does that when Luke Skywalker comes back to his home where his aunt and uncle live. So it's sort of got that in it. There's the quotes from The Searchers, but maybe Liberty Balance. I don't know, though. We'll see. But I should probably do the Western videos. This is why I do this live stream, is to remember, to drum up video ideas. So, worst sight and sound movie list, Western list. Hi, Professor. Reading your chats. Bullcat Gaming, love Balthazar. I'd love to know about this movie, like how to watch it. I feel like sometimes when I don't like a movie, why did I watch it? Did I miswatch it? Is a big question. So, Bresson made it boring on purpose. Is that what you're saying about Balthazar? Yeah. Now, Bullcat Gaming, I actually do like 2001 from like an abstract. Like if I want to analyze it, if I want to feel the movie. I don't get it. But if I want to think about what it's saying to me, how it's just syncing up with 20th century philosophy and classical music and science fiction at the time, it's great. I mean, I could watch that every year. Mulholland Drive, I probably miswatched. Although I'm not sure. I probably was in a frame of mind when I watched it, and I didn't get it, but yeah, I don't think I like Lynch. I'm going to teach The Elephant Man in just a week. No, 3 days. So The Elephant Man, I like the straight story. Eraserhead is interesting. So, Stalker was boring on purpose. Is that true? What is the reference? Why would a filmmaker make a movie boring on purpose? I can see slow. I can see deliberate. One of my colleagues calls it paced. Boring. I don't know about that film. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Yeah. Anyway, the sight and sound poll I think is very interesting. So that's why I'm reading it off to you guys. And a few of these, probably like 10 to 20% I've not seen. Honestly, on the sight and sound poll, it's just so overwhelming to go through them and concentrate on these movies. Most of them do require a lot of attention. And that is usually a problem for moviegoers. It's a problem for me when, you know what, I want to sit down and just be led through a movie and semi-entertained. I've got 4 kids and all kinds of work to do. So it's always the problem with watching these sight and sound movies, which usually are very provoking. I'm looking at Metropolis, Psycho, 400 Blows. Obviously, these Pather Panchali. I never know how to say that, but Some Like It Hot. I like that movie. It's fun. I just top 100 all time. I'm not sure. Tati's Playtime, and I don't love Close Up by Kiarostami. I'm going to say that right now. I'm sorry to say. I love some of his other movies, but that's not the one I put in the top 100. Anyway, so all that's to say, we all have our wild opinions, and we've got to sort of figure out what's good and what's not. And at this point in movie history, we're sorting that out. With all the movies available to us on streaming, with me giving you recommendations on what to watch, you got to figure out what is good and what's not. And when I think about Dr. Strangelove as a satire of what's going on in the Cold War in the 1960s, my question is it relevant today? Will young people still like this? Will they get the humor? Will it make sense to them? And will they appreciate it? And will they apply it to their circumstances today? And I just don't know. I mean, maybe they will. So, I got about 5 more minutes here, so let's keep going. Stalker. Okay, so censorship asked Tarkovsky about the meaning. They didn't get it. Are you saying that Tarkovsky was making that movie in such a way so it would avoid the censors in the Soviet Union? Because I can see that for sure. I mean, that's what the Strugatskys came up when they wrote their novels, is that they had censor problems. Usually it had to do with morality more than political thought, according to them. And, they write about how they got their books published. But I'm not sure about the movies. So that's a very interesting comment. Yeah. Have I seen any Persian movies? What do you mean by Persian? Iranian? Is that what you're asking? Where are you from, by the way? I love Iranian cinema in general. Even the close-up, which I don't appreciate that much, I still really love I love the idea of the movie. I like Kiarostami's approach to that material. So I think Kiarostami and Panahi, and I'm rattling off directors. Asghar Farhadi. Who's the one who did Children of Heaven? These are big names now, worldwide names. So I think, yes, you should watch those. Wes Anderson. A little too quirky and hipster for me. I think I just don't appreciate it because of that, but I like the way he obviously makes his movies. I just never have gotten into them. All right, here's the last question. What are Kiarostami's best movies? Oh, what are his best movies? So Abbas Kiarostami, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, is now a very famous Iranian director, experimenting with sort of the border. To me, this is one of his great, aspects, is experimenting on the border between documentaries and fictional films. And often, probably even through most of his filmography, blurring the lines between those two, to the point where, it's an obvious point. Maybe it's even too obvious, is that documentaries aren't real. I mean, they're just another form of fictional filmmaking. I think, like in actual writing, you have a term called creative nonfiction. And I would call what Kiarostami is doing with documentaries sort of screwing up what creative nonfiction film is. And that's what Close-Up is. So yeah, someone has written it down. The Hobbit. The Coker Trilogy. Koker. So you're going to want to watch the whole Coker Trilogy, which I don't think was initially a trilogy. I mean, he didn't plan it out to be that way. But as he was making these movies, they sort of all sync together. And you have a Russian doll effect with the Coker Trilogy, which is that the first movie called Where Is My Friend's House? You have this movie about a kid who gets lost. I think he's going from one small town to another small town on his own. A great looking movie, a great movie for kids. My own kids like this movie a lot. Very interesting, not just for being a kids movie, heavily philosophical. You'll see why when you watch it. But Where Is My Friend's House is nested within the next movie, which I just love. The English translation, I think, is Life and Nothing More. I think that's what it's called. which is a movie about the making of Where's My Friend's House. In fact, isn't it a director trying to drive to the town where that movie Where's My Friend's House was filmed? And then the movie after that, Through the Olive Trees, is a movie about the making of Life and Nothing More. Right? So you have a movie about the making of a movie about the making of a movie. And all of these movies are nested within each other. And then they have a very interesting, for you, in terms of just analysis or you're interested in art, period, relationship to each other. And they're not just straight trilogies where one is a sequel of another, this is a sequel of another. They're sort of nested inside each other. And so I think that aspect is really compelling to me. But you have to appreciate the way he approaches the material, which is he likes to put cameras on cars and then you just ride along as the viewer. So hopefully you like that aspect. But the last shots of these movies, the Coker trilogy, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's hard to even describe them. Even if you're going to sit down for 10 to 20 minutes and just talk about them, they're very elaborate and well thought out, and they all relate to the previous movies in some way. So I highly, highly recommend that. And the other Kiarostami movie, let me pull up his, I'm going to make sure I've got this right. You know, you watch Close Up, okay, and if you liked it, you'll probably like his other ones. By the way, I watched all of these in a short period of time because I was very fascinated by him. You know, some of them caught with me and some didn't. The other Kiarostami movie is, Certified Copy is quite good. Now, Taste of Cherry, people will tell you to watch Taste of Cherry. I like that movie a lot, except the ending I'm still struggling with. There's like 2 to 5 minutes. So it's a strange ending, but as I'm telling you, documentaries versus fictional films, what's the difference? You know, trying to showcase, this is like a postmodern thing, that all movies, including documentaries, are constructed artifacts that are unreal in a way. And Taste of Cherry will have that about it. I don't love the ending, but you should try it. But Certified Copy is really interesting. So that's one, 24 Frames. That's his last movie, 24 Frames. Anyway, I hope those are a lot of suggestions for Kiarostami, who, if you watch him, you'll see that he's influenced his not quite proteges, but close, who come after him or are sort of younger than him in Iranian cinema. But, that's the thing about Iran. It's got a great cinematic tradition, in my opinion. What else? I really appreciate the chat, so thank you guys for this. Everyone should look at the chat, obviously. And I'm Iranian living in Germany. Yeah, well, the thing about watching movies from Iran is there has been in the United States for 20, 50 years, even a lot of rancor about Iran. And people need to know that Iran is, on the ground, a normal place it's kind of looks like the United States in a lot of ways. So that's, movies bridge that, whatever it is, political divide, I think. And they're doing good work that way. Yeah, so, okay, and now you're on is it Carway or Charway? I don't care. Chungking Express, I did a video on, a very short one, but that's one of the most popular on the channel. In the Mood for Love. And then, 2046. So he also is a director. Carway. I don't know how to say it. People always criticize me no matter what I say. So forgive me. Karwai. 2 words. And his movies are also sort of nested dolls. I don't recommend just watching one of them. Watch 4 or 5. Happy Together. Even My Blueberry Nights, which is a Hollywoodish movie, it's sort of, they're all sort of riffing on each other, all sort of about each other, they all sort of quote each other. So if you like the sort of fictional filmic games directors play, he's another one to look at. And I got a couple of videos on my channel. In the Mood for Love is one of them. So anyway, you guys are great. I really appreciate your comments. You've given me a couple to watch here to look for and a couple of video ideas, which is fabulous. And I appreciate you all. I hope you have a great February. I'll see you in March. I hope your year is going great, or will at least improve. And we'll get some movies back in the movie theater. And March promises to be a little bit better for movie theater movies. So we'll see if that happens. Anyway, thanks everybody. See you in the comments on my videos. See you later.